I would also like the best thing about buying a brand new video game at that time. A, it was only $40, so like that was way better than
Right.
like the 70 we have to pay now. But then you'd have the packaging was awesome, right? You had the box, and behind the box, like it had all of the pictures that you needed to like really want to
Totally.
play this game, right?
Hello, Bald Brothers. Welcome back to the podcast. Galen and I, we've touched on this a few times, but both of us are gamers, and we grew up playing games, and I think for both of us, as video games and maybe board games too, have kind of shaped our lives in different ways. We thought it would be fun to talk about our experiences with gaming. So with that, I'll start things off by asking you, do you have a first memory with video games, and what game was it, and what was your memory of it?
I think the very first video game that I got to play was on the Game Boy Pocket. So it's like not even the color one. It was like black and white, and it was Link's Awakening, Zelda. Yeah, and I think that kind of set me off to being a Zelda fan for life, pretty much, because it was just, it was so cool just exploring a world, right? And something that you can carry around with you too. And then to be able to, find new gear, which kind of made you feel like, oh man, I'm even cooler than before,
I can't believe you said Link's Awakening as your that's like the same for me. That was like my first. It wasn't my first
no way
with video games, but it was my first experience. Actually, my brother-in-law and I were just talking about this game because the Switch version, they like re-released it a little while ago. And it's, revamped graphics, but the game is, the playthrough is almost identical to how I remember playing. I played on the Game Boy Color, but that was the first game that I ever played just completely front to back. Found like all the secrets, all the extras, all the heart pieces. So it wasn't my first like experience with games, but it was my first game that I just completely like was immersed in.
Now the question is, on your first playthrough, were you a thief?
Oh man, I can't remember if I was a thief on my very first playthrough, but definitely that was one of the most fun parts of the game. Once me and my friends figured that out, it was just like you just go into the shop and just steal everything that you could.
I thought that was like a nice Easter egg. It's like they don't tell you you could do that. It's just like you actually find out, and it's like, oh, this guy's spinning around. Why can I go out the door? Oh, I can.
Yeah, I know, you're right. It was one of those things where it was kind of like we were talking about, I think last time, with like Super Smash Brothers and kids not knowing like what champions were unlockable or not unlockable, and there was like a rumor that somehow got spread to every kid who played the game that Sonic and Tails were unlockable in the early Super Smash Brothers games, and they were not. And for Zelda, Link's Awakening, that was one of those things where once one kid figured out, hey, you can steal from the shop, then all of a sudden everybody knows you can do it.
Yeah.
So did you play through that one completely as well? Like start to finish?
I got through most of it. I think unfortunately, my Game Boy Pocket had like this weird, or maybe it was with the game cartridge, I'm not sure, but essentially all I could see was the Link sprite. So I couldn't, and other NPCs, but I couldn't see any of the terrain or anything. It's like, so I really couldn't play much further.
So the game just glitched out on you.
Love that game though. Yeah, I have played it through like, as older, but not.
Do you have a Switch? Did you get the Switch version as well?
I didn't get the Switch version. I was very tempted, but I was really busy, and then saved my time for Tears of the Kingdom. So
I decided to go ahead and buy it. I was kind of debating back and forth, and I'm glad I did buy it. It was worth it just for the like memories and the what's the word I'm looking for, the nostalgia. And it was funny because playing through it on the Switch, I mean, I hadn't played the original version in years, but playing through it on the Switch, I just instinctually knew exactly like where to go next in the game, because I had played through it so many times as a kid. Yeah, that was a good one.
Did you ever try the new top-down Zelda, the one with
I actually am probably about halfway through it right now, and I'm really enjoying it. It's more puzzle based. There's definitely some combat involved, but it's a little bit more strategic when you're doing combat, because you create like echoes of other monsters who kind of fight for you.
Yeah, that was cool.
So it's a little bit more strategic about like which monster you want to
a necromancer, so I like. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I said I'm usually a necromancer, so the idea of like summoning
You would
things
like
is
this game then.
always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think they did a good job with it, and it's a very similar style to the Link's Awakening on the Switch that they did. It looks like similar graphics, but it feels like very
Yeah.
fluid, and just like a different take on the franchise, which is cool. Yeah.
Do you like the more sandboxy elements of how Zelda's kind of been morphing
To be
towards?
honest with you, I kind of preferred the linear, just
Mm,
make your way through the dungeons, progress through the story that way.
mm,
I think that's just
yeah.
because as I've gotten older and busier, I don't have as much time for just like exploration of a game like that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
like the
know it
Breath of the
sucks.
Wild, Tears of the King. I haven't even beat Breath of the Wild yet, the first one, just because it's so
Sure.
like it feels so massive to me, and I just haven't had time to like sit down and just explore it. Yeah. What about you? Do you
Yeah.
like that direction that they're going, or did you prefer the old style?
I do, but then yeah, the story gets sacrificed, right? Like it's hard to create a linear or like some type of cohesive story when the player is
Right.
allowed to go
Hmm.
anywhere, right? And I think with like AI, I think it might be easier because like, you're seeing not only the technology to like produce a game like completely from scratch, but also to have, build stories
Hmm.
essentially on the fly. Like currently you have to individually program every NPC and
Right.
their dialogue, but now if you have AI, it's like, okay, well, they could have a whole complete backstory that,
That's a really good point. Yeah, I
yeah.
wonder if games will get even more immersive because of that, probably, when you don't need writers to do all
Did you see
that.
that? Yeah. Or even
Yeah.
programmers, right? It's like you
Yeah,
can
totally.
simplify it. Like, did you see that? It was like a tech demo, and you play as like someone in the
Mm-mm.
Matrix, and then your mission is to like within 6 minutes or something like that. You have to convince one of the NPCs in there that they are in the Matrix, and then all the dialogue is just AI spun up, right? So,
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Huh. That's cool.
yeah.
So, do they actually convince any of them that they're? Yeah,
They said it was really hard. It's like I didn't all the playthroughs I saw
yeah.
they couldn't do it, but yeah.
So, I guess jumping back to Zelda, then you must have also played through Ocarina of Time. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah, one of the best. But I maybe semi-controversial belief. I find that Majora's Mask is even
Hey,
better.
I love Majora's Mask. There's always a place in my heart for Ocarina of Time because my best friend in elementary school, he had a Nintendo 64. My parents were kind of
Mm-hmm.
strict when it came to video games when I was a kid, so I didn't have like very
Yeah.
many systems. I was allowed like a Game Boy as a kid, and that's about it. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to go over to
Yeah.
my friend's house to play games on a console, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I got him for his birthday Ocarina of Time, and so we basically just like played through it
Yeah, good
together.
friend.
So that was like, a strong
Yeah,
memory for me. Yeah. But
for sure.
Majora's Mask is
Yeah,
underrated and I think underappreciated for sure. Yeah.
I agree. I think Ocarina of Time was like the very first time I was like
Hmm.
wowed by graphics. Like I remember like because I had Link's Awakening and I was like, okay, this
Yeah.
is this is fun, right? And then all of a sudden like you see these 3D graphics and it's like the
Yeah.
soft music coming in and the piano and all of a sudden you see the horse in the background. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
this is awesome,
We would just sit there and watch the like or the main menu and then just wait for
Oh
the
yeah,
the
for
like
sure.
there would be those little like Easter egg cinematics with like the
Mhm.
the twin witches, cinematic would like pop
Oh
up if
yeah,
you waited long enough and stuff like that.
yeah.
So,
I know. That's probably the loading screen I would like
yeah.
binge. I don't really stay on much other loading screens,
There's
but that
something
one,
about it, yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one point that Majora's Mask has against it. The loading screen is definitely meh. So
Yeah, yeah, not as good. Yeah. But that was
yeah,
do you remember did you get through the entirety of that game as a kid? Because that was kind of a big game for like
but
yeah,
Ocarina of Time. No, I
yeah.
help. Yeah, especially getting the big Goron sword. I don't think I was coordinated enough to make it
Oh
within the
yeah.
time. Uh, Yeah. Nowadays it's like I have like 2 minutes
Yeah,
remaining. It's like,
that was
man, what was
easy.
it?
What was so hard about this as a kid? Yeah. Did you have the guidebooks? Like the
I did, but I got them a
Mhm.
lot later, so it's like maybe like a year after I had gotten the games. But that was another one. Like the Majora's Mask guidebook, I would just like
Yeah,
on the toilet, like
dude, I
before
would do the
bed.
same
Like
thing.
I just love the artwork, you
Well,
know?
again, this it sounds because I didn't have like a Nintendo 64 myself, so I was actually kind of like obsessed with the guidebooks. Like I would just like read
Hmm.
through the guidebooks on my own time.
Yeah, I would also like the best thing about buying a brand new video game at that time. A, it was only $40, so like that was way better than
Right.
like the 70 we have to pay now. But then you'd have the packaging was awesome, right? You had the box, and behind the box, like it had all of the pictures
Yeah,
that you needed to like really want to
totally,
play this
totally.
game, right? They took time to like try to
Yeah,
entice you, right? Then you get it and you go home, but then you've been out all day. You went to school, you went to Target afterwards, you got your game, and then now you got to take a crap, right? So then you're on the toilet, but you're so pumped to play this game, right? So you're ripping open the box and you get the
yeah,
instruction
yeah.
manual inside of the box. You flipping through that.
Dude, totally, yeah. I mean, even just the ride home, like just in anticipation of like being able to play the game and you've got like you have it
Yeah.
in your hands. And I think that's probably what
Hmm.
made that packaging so like memorable. It was just like that was like your
Yeah.
first experience and you had that anxiety built up or like that excitement built up to like play it. And
Yeah.
but no, they used to spend, a good amount of time and effort and thought into the packaging because that was what kind of sold it. You'd be
Yeah.
walking down video game aisle at Target and you want something that's going to grab a kid's attention.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have you played through most of the Zelda series,
Everyone except for Zelda 2 or Link's
like one of
Adventure.
the
I think it's
the Nintendo?
the the 2D side-scrolling
Same,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I tried the first Zelda. That one's hard. Like if you don't like an open world, that truly is just like you have
Not at
no
all, yeah.
direction whatsoever about anything. You just wander. I guess that's kind of
Yeah.
the beauty of it too.
No,
Yeah.
I on the Switch I downloaded like they have like a Nintendo simulator, like the original
Hmm.
Nintendo simulator, and you can play like
Yeah.
tons
Hmm.
of games, which is really cool. So I was like, oh, I never played through the original Zelda, and I got stuck like almost immediately. I was
Oh
like, oh,
yeah.
I'm an adult now. Like when you're a
Where'd I
kid, it's a
go?
lot harder to figure this stuff out. I'm like, this shouldn't be too hard. And I was like, nope, I have no idea what to
Mhm.
do. So I never,
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten all the way through that one. I'll probably have to do that at some point.
What about you? Did you need help through
Oh,
Ocarina of Time, or
absolutely,
did
yeah.
you?
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
like I said before, me and my buddy would play together, and we'd kind of like hand off the controller,
Mhm.
and it was funny
Yeah.
because we had a guidebook, and when we were playing, I kind of wanted to just be like, all right, let's go into this room and like let's just see what's in there. But he was more
Mhm.
like, let's pause it and let's check the guidebook. And so like before every
Oh
room,
yeah.
he'd like want to pause it and like see what was coming in the next room. And I was like, let's just go. So we would kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's part of the adventure.
But
Yeah.
when we would get stuck, we definitely needed the guidebook for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to play is just, experience the game because that's
For
what it was
sure.
designed for, right? You're not designed
Yeah,
to have the
exactly.
guidebook,
Yeah. I
you
mean, but
know.
there were some things,
And I kind of
some of the secrets and like heart pieces and like extras that you would never figure
no
out
way. Not as
without a guidebook.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, especially the fairies from Majora's Mask in the temples.
hmm,
Like those, you
yeah,
have to collect 10 of them. That one, it's like some of them, it's like this is
so
so obscure. You have
obscure.
to like
Yeah,
fall off a
I
cliff.
know.
Like how would you find that? And then the margin of error for that, like there's one in the
Hmm.
Goron temple, and uh, like you got to fall off a cliff, and then the margin of error is
I know
so
exactly which one you're
small. Like
talking
it's
about.
like yeah, it's like how would I ever find it out, or even think that that's like a
Right.
place you're
Yeah.
supposed to go? You know?
Majora's Mask was such a cool concept now, but I do remember as a kid, like really feeling like that race against the clock, and like that
Yeah.
was so cool the way they added that like extra bit of like pressure to the game. Like you can't, you really
Hmm.
can't just mess around. Like you gotta get through it. And
Yeah.
otherwise you're gonna lose all your like rupees and your arrows, and you got to start all over again. But
Yeah,
what
I
was
know.
kind of interesting about Majora's compared to Ocarina is like there's only really 4 dungeons, right? And
Yeah.
so it's a
Yeah.
lot of
Hmm.
like extras, like collecting the masks, and so there's a ton more like heart
Yeah.
pieces as well. And then like the like spider, I guess the like mini dungeons were like the spider temples or dungeons. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was a lot of extras in that game, I feel like, which was cool. It kind of was more of a like an
Yeah.
exploring type of type of game.
Yeah, it was like exploration in a different sense, right? Because like I found that Ocarina of Time is like the epic, right? It's like the large, like J.J. Abrams, like big
Hmm.
production, right? And I thought that it was cool because I was like, oh wow, this is like a bit like it feels like this sprawling like map, and it's a lot to explore in terms of like the
Hmm.
locale, right? And then Majora's Mask was more about depth. They only had a year
Yeah,
to make
yeah,
it. They just had to like use a bunch of
yeah,
assets that they already had, but instead of exploring like a place, they explored people, which
hmm,
I found was interesting. The game had a lot of depth. Every NPC, you got to see a big snapshot of their
yeah.
life in 3 days.
It was
Yeah,
super
and I thought that
cool,
was cool.
and like even some of the side quests, like you might take a different path. Like I remember, like you could take, I think you had to take like a letter from one of the NPCs, and like you could either
Mhm.
deliver it in the mailbox or hand it to the guy in the toilet who needed toilet paper.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
was like so cool how like you could, depending on what you needed to do, you would like have to go back in time and do it again. But
yeah.
like just that they thought through all that in the limited amount of time that they had, and is pretty
Hmm.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I probably played through most of the Zelda games except for the very old ones and the very new ones. Do you like Tears of the Kingdom compared to like Breath of the Wild? Is
I
it as good?
I think they did a great job. It's like I'd say mechanically, it's like how Majora's Mask was kind of like an addition to
Hmm.
Ocarina of Time. I felt like they did a good job with adding a lot of extra mechanics that made the game feel fresh. But for some reason, I didn't have the same like urge to play as I did with
Hmm.
like Breath of the Wild, and maybe because Breath of the Wild was a lot more
Yeah.
novel. This one just seems like there's just so much stuff, and I'm getting tired of the whole like weapon
Yeah.
breaking mechanic. It's just like I like that weapon. I wanted to keep it, you know?
Can't I just repair it somewhere
Yeah.
at least?
I know. Or I wish that you could have like one
Hmm.
unbreakable weapon, outside
Yeah.
of the Master
Yeah. Yeah.
Sword. That'd
Yeah.
be a cool side quest.
Yeah, those games are just like, again, with having more limited time now and just other things I want to do. It's
Yeah.
hard to like just feel like I can sit down and immerse myself in those. And I find myself as I've gotten a little bit older, kind of defaulting back to like playing through games that I already know. For some, like I would happily
Yeah, same.
sit down and play through Ocarina of Time again. And
Hmm.
playing through Link's Awakening on the Switch, that was like perfect. It was like got the nostalgia. I knew generally what I was doing. There's just something
Hmm.
that's very like relaxing to me about that. Did you
Yeah.
have what about like the other Nintendo franchise, like the Mario games? Were you big into those at all?
I'm pretty decent at platforming. I hate platforming. And I don't know why. It's just infuriating to me. Like, 'cause the whole thing is designed to make you fall off, and then you're supposed to do it
Hmm.
over and over and over again. Maybe that's why I don't like the Dark Souls series either. Just like I just want to get good, but I guess dying
Yeah.
is part of getting good. But I don't know.
Yeah, that was actually probably my first video game that I ever played was the first Mario game on the
Mhm.
Nintendo. Like our neighbor across the
Sure.
street had the dad had bought a Nintendo and they had the Mario and the Duck Hunt game. And
Hmm.
we would just play that for
Yeah.
hours and hours. I remember not even ever making it past like the second level in Mario, like where you go into that
Yeah. Same.
underground
Like
level
one,
and it's
two.
just impossible
That's it.
as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have like no coordination with your
But I see some of those
fingers,
people like, yeah, I could barely move Link around, let
Right.
alone like a little jumping man. Where again, the margin of error is like
Yeah.
this. So,
Um,
or the ones where you have to jump on like a monster that's like floating like this, but every other iteration it might not be in the same location, so you just dive off a
yeah,
cliff. It's like what?
I know. Yeah, some of those jumps were insane. For a kid to be able to do that, it just
Yeah,
wasn't going to happen.
I love that. It became like a viral meme picture, but it's like the mom who's playing like she's like locked in playing Mario, and then all the kids are like seeing how she's doing
Yeah.
it. I don't know if you've seen that picture. It's like a Renaissance
Okay,
painting,
got
pretty
it. Yeah.
much. It's like a
That's awesome. All right, so then the other big Nintendo franchise, the Pokemon games. Were you into those at all?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that got me
for
into
sure.
RPGs in
Same.
general. But yeah, I remember getting so I got blue version and my brother
Hmm.
got red version. Uh, Okay, wait. What was your first starter though? I gotta know.
So, to be honest with you, I don't remember my first time picking up the game and playing. I don't remember who I picked because I actually restarted the game like 3 times so I could try all of them. Um, but I do have a favorite starter now, and that's
Okay.
Bulbasaur, which is
Okay, cool.
controversial, I think. But
Yeah. My very first starter was
nice, yeah.
Bulbasaur.
But
Yeah.
who's your go-to
Yeah.
now? Like, if you had, do you have a favorite now that's different?
And nowadays, if I were to play those games, I try to like role play as or give myself limitations. Like I can only use this type of Pokemon, or I can only, or everything has to look kind of like a dragon. So
Yeah.
in which case it'd be Charizard, but I still pick Bulbasaur
Nice,
just
yeah.
for old time's sake.
So
So
my one, well, a couple reasons why he's my favorite. One is I just think he's cool and underrated, and then the other is like there's no other good grass Pokemon in the game really. At least
yeah,
not to like the
true.
same power level that Venusaur has. So if you wanted a
Mm-hmm.
diverse, well balanced team, he was probably
Yeah,
the best option for as far as grass. Yeah,
that's an interesting take. I hadn't thought about that. I just thought
yeah,
liked how he
he looks
looked.
cool.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
uh, mhm,
I think I don't know if any I haven't played through all of the other games, but I played through a lot of them. I don't think
mhm.
anything beats the original starting 3.
I agreed. I don't know. And in fact, most of the designs of the original Pokemon
Mm-hmm.
were the best. I think they've gotten so
Yeah,
elaborate now.
keep it
It's like
simple.
no. Like that really
Definitely.
simple style
Yeah,
was like
I
was
agree
cool. You
for
know?
sure. Yeah, I know some of the
Yeah.
you see some like iterations of like that how Venusaur looked in the first game. He looked super cool, I thought, and now like I've seen like other versions of him.
Menacing.
Like
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird design. Yeah, but
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. I thought that the all three starters for the original
yeah,
looked good. You know, and then every other generation, including the second one, like I felt like some of
for
them were
sure.
a little lacking. You know, and usually it was the grass type. I don't know. They hate designing
I
grass type
agree.
Pokemon.
That's
I
what
don't
I was
know
gonna
why.
say. Because in the second, in Gold and Silver, the fire and the water starters are pretty cool, and then the
Yeah, pretty
grass one
cool.
is like, eh. And then yeah, it only gets worse from there.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
I think.
The funniest one is like if you in third gen, if you keep Torchic as a bird, you know, like all the way through and teach
Hmm.
it fly, and then you went into Pokemon Stadium and evolved it
Hmm.
into Blaziken,
And
you
then,
know, and then have it
even though he
use
doesn't have any
fly, just
wings,
like
really,
he just like flies. Yeah, he just flies up like a DBZ character. It's kind of funny.
because you can only teach a fly when it's in the Torchic. Yeah.
Yeah, when it's Torchic, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So did you? I've played through probably 4 generations, I think.
Yeah, I got through fourth, and then I picked up the newest one. It is empirically the best for getting rid of all the grindy
Hmm.
aspects of Pokemon, which is like killing thousands of, Jigglypuffs in the
Yeah.
fields. There's a pile of, fainted
Right.
Nidorans in the corner.
I heard that
uh,
the newer versions have like a lot of like dialogue and
yeah, they're
yeah.
very story heavy, unfortunately.
And I guess for some people that's
I just
good.
want to play the game.
Um,
Yeah.
probably not my thing. I kind of like just again like sometimes just because they were more limited, they had to keep things simple, and
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
in some ways made it better, and
Hmm.
created more mystery in a way too, where you
Agreed.
just had to explore.
I think I wish so. The original Pokemon and up to like third generation, I think were great. I understand they had limitations. That was a great
Hmm.
design for Pokemon, right? And I think third generation was kind of like the really nice polished version of that 2D Pokemon. And then I think I just wish at that point they just started pushing more towards. I just want to play the anime. I want
Mm.
to walk around in a universe, catch Pokemon in the wild, and then have them battle in
Yeah.
real time. Like, wouldn't
Well,
that be
so they
cool?
kind of do that with now I forget the name. It was like Arceus. It's
Yeah.
more of an
So
open
it's
world type of thing.
and then the new ones too, Scarlet and Violet. They have the open world aspect, so we're getting there, right? But the combat's still it's the
Mm.
take
I see.
turns
I see.
RPG
Yeah.
stuff. But I've seen it happen. It's like in like Final Fantasy 15. It's like they have a way to allow you to attack and in real time, and then Pokken tournament, they've done it
Yeah.
before.
I feel like I don't know. As a kid, I feel like Arceus was maybe like exactly in some ways maybe that's what I was like, because as a kid playing Pokemon, we probably all had the same like daydream of like if Pokemon were real and like I was,
Yeah, of course.
and if I was a trainer and like this is like what it would look like. And I think that's the
Yeah.
game we all wanted as a kid. It was like I want to be the trainer, like I wanted to feel like this open world where I am like, just a 3D version of that. And I feel like it hasn't
Mhm.
quite gotten there. Yeah.
Manifested,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I think next gen, I'm very hopeful with AI and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see it in next
Yeah.
gen. But
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah. Do you have a favorite Pokemon? Like all-time
Favorite of all
Pokemon?
time. I mean, it probably is if I can just pick the three, the Bulbasaur, I've so nice. Hey, bud. Guest speaker.
Guest speaker.
Probably my favorite. I think Arcanine is pretty cool, and Gyarados.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Probably in the top three. How about you?
You have a Meowth though.
Yeah, he's feeling chatty this morning.
I think mine would either be I really like Gengar. He's
That's a
like
good
my
one.
number one.
Yeah.
And then otherwise it'd either be Snorlax or Marowak.
Oh, interesting. To what's the appeal behind those two?
Snorlax is it was just funny to have like this tanky Pokemon that like took forever to kill.
Yeah.
I think my general build is to make really annoying builds, like where you just want to rip your hair out. And then Marowak was cool because it was one of the few Pokemon that had like a weapon, and Marowak's cooler than Farfetch, let's be real.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah. And then it's kind of metal to have the Cubone to wear the skull of its mom.
I know that is pretty metal. That was like a cool part of the game too, like that mystery behind you'd like go into the graveyard or that like graveyard building, and there was like the ghosts, and then you had to go get the like special scope to like see them. I don't know, just a cool part of the game. Yeah.
It does beg the question. It's like, does every Cubone have to witness its mother die and then take its soul to
there are
become a
some
Cubone? Like, what happens before?
parts of the game that you just have to accept as they are and not think about too much. Yeah, like how does a Magikarp turn into a Gyarados,
I don't know. I mean, I understand it in terms of like the Chinese lore. You have like the salmon, right, that goes upstream and then it becomes, it evolves into like the dragon, right? Because it's gone through its trials and tribulations.
Okay.
And that's why they force you with splash and tackle
the weakest possible
20 levels. Yeah. But when you finally get through that, endeavor, you've evolved into the
cool.
dragon.
I didn't realize there was some lore behind it, so that's awesome. Speaking of RPGs, did you what did you kind of jump into after that? Like you said, that introduced you to RPGs. So Final Fantasy, some.
Yeah, I really got into Final Fantasy, and while I liked the take turn style, 1 through 7 or 10, I guess. I really liked the tactics Final Fantasies. Like I think I was introduced to it by Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
I played that as well. Yeah.
EVA. I think that's one of my favorite games of all time. Like I just thought it was so cool. Have all these classes and kind of play like this, kind of advanced chess like thing.
That was a cool game. Yeah, that was kind of a really different take on the franchise, but I enjoyed playing through that as well. I can't remember if I beat it or not, but I think that was a game I was borrowing from a friend for a while, and I had to give it back at some point.
I really liked it. I thought that the blue mage, I don't know if you got to mess around with that, was like one of the coolest things. It's like a mage where you had to teach it like some type of learning skill, and then you had to have monsters use certain abilities like or magic on you, and then you'll learn it, right? But there was like a thing about it where you had to you didn't know which skills would actually transfer, and then B, it's like you also had to make sure that the guy didn't die, like getting blasted with some crazy spell.
And then would you have it permanently after that, or just for that? Yeah,
you would. So yeah, I eventually maxed out one blue mage, and I was like so proud of that, It's
funny, my first like memory of Final Fantasy was actually kind of late because I had another friend who had like I think he must have had a PlayStation 2, and he was playing Final Fantasy X. I think that's the console that was on.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, man, this game is so cool. He was doing like the battle and like the summons, and then he was like, well, do you know there's like other Final Fantasy games like on the PlayStation? And I had a PlayStation. I didn't have a PlayStation 2. And I was like,
No.
what? So then I went and got 7, 8, and 9. And the only one I ever made it through all the way from start to finish was 9, which is kind of crazy because I think that one's the longest.
No, is that the one with Squall?
I don't think so.
Gun,
I think that's 8. Is that the one with the gun blades?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's 8.
Yeah, the gun blade.
9 is the one the like main character has like a tail and
that's right. That's right.
But I felt like the things that you could summon in that game were the coolest. Like you could summon some pretty cool like monsters to help fight for you. So
yeah.
But I know 7 gets like a lot of the accolades, and it is a great game. I never made it all the way through that one.
Yeah, I thought the story was cool, and then I really enjoyed. We binged Crisis Core at like one summer. I don't know if you know that one. It's like the prequel to 7. It follows Zach, Cloud's friend. Yeah.
Nice.
Though they had an opportunity at the end where they could have done a really cool Halo Reach ending. I don't know if you know about the ending of that.
So I'm a big Halo fan, but after Halo 3, I kind of stopped playing. Yeah.
Oh. All right. So spoiler alert for everyone. It's last man standing type of thing, And I thought it would have been cool to where you're just trying to fight till the end, until you run out of health, and you can keep going and then keep going, but it just gets harder and harder. Because that's kind of the ending of Crisis Core, but they didn't do that mechanic.
Yeah,
so I thought it would have been cool.
So since you mentioned Halo, we should talk about that next. Because that was as far as like games that like I have the most memories around, Halo 1, 2, and 3 definitely fit into that. Halo 1 playing through the campaign was like there's nothing like it. It was so cool. And then did you play multiplayer on Halo 1?
A little bit. I was just never good at multiplayer. It's like the whole you dump your whole magazine and then melee is how to kill someone. I couldn't get around that. So
we had so me and my brother would play, and then we had 2 friends who were also brothers who were like the same age as us, and we would literally take like a bed sheet and tape it to like to cover up half of the screen, and so 2 people would be like on top, and then 2 people would be sitting under the sheet so that you couldn't like screen look and watch like
wow, such dedication.
And then when Halo 2 came out, and like that was the first like online like first person shooter game that I played, at least, and it was just like I remember it just being like the coolest thing, where like you were loading into a game with like all these like kids that you didn't know anything about, and just like jumping into a game for the first time was like such a cool memory.
Isn't it? Like I saw this really like I guess nostalgia sad meme where it was like, you don't know the day, but there was one day that was going to be the last time you were going to hop on with your friends like that.
Yeah. Damn. That hits hard. Yeah. Because there was so much excitement around it, and everybody was playing, and there was you'd like jumping on Xbox Live and seeing like 2 or 3 of your friends online too, and getting into a party together and then hopping into a game playing Capture the Flag or whatever. It was so cool. Yeah.
Oh, better. I think that's where technology could have been. Like, connecting people,
totally.
I think we got away from that somehow.
We had dial up for a while, and like we would try to play on dial up internet, and it just
it would
not work. Yeah.
Stuck in mentality.
But it really was amazing. Like Halo 2, I mean, they did such a good job with that game, like for it being like a really true immersive online experience. Like there was issues and there was glitches and lag and all that stuff they had to deal with, but in general it was like a pretty smooth experience, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And
it kind of goes to show it's like, what you're willing to accept because you like whatever it is. I think one of the big things for me is like going back and playing these games. It's like, wow, the graphics are a lot worse than I remember, Just makes you wonder, it's like, how much of it is just in our head, like, is it just because you live life
Hmm.
through your memories, and you remember it being a certain way, then that is
Yeah.
how it is until you go back and like observe it as
Yeah.
something different, you
Well, it
know?
also just kind of goes to show like graphics are not what makes a game good. Um,
Hmm.
it's kind of
Yeah,
the
agreed.
it's kind of the icing on the cake or the cherry on top, I guess. Like, oh, if it looks good, that's a nice feature to have, but it's not what really necessarily engages you in the game. Although I do want to ask you, do you think that now, because graphics and technology has come so much further now, do you think that that's an expectation of games today to have super amazing graphics?
Yeah. I think that because indie developers are still out there and creating things like,
Yeah.
Stardew Valley, like you have this openness, and I think with mobile too kind of allowed people to be like, okay, let's our expectations should be pretty not super high because
Hmm.
it's on your phone, right? But I think we've seen this like both in Hollywood and with gaming. It's like you have like these AAA studios pumping out these beautiful crap, right? It has no backing, it barely works. And then you have these indie developers. It's like
Yeah.
some guy in his garage just with a passion project, and it's
Yeah.
a great game. And I think with AI and being able to have that, I think it'll just
Hmm.
become even better. Like where you and I could create a video game of our own making because we this is our
Yeah,
own
I was gonna
imagination,
say,
you
like,
know?
I think you're right. I think the doors are open now for, I mean, the guy who made Stardew Valley, it was literally just him. The one guy who programmed
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
made the whole entire
Yeah.
game. And it's an amazing game. It's one of
Hmm.
the few games that my wife will play, and she got like sucked into that game
Hmm.
like super hard. Um,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's really amazing. I mean, it was really well done, and I think you're
Agreed.
right. I think what's cool about where things are today is that the doors are open for somebody who's like, I've had this passion project for years and years, and um, I have like a great concept in mind and great story, great characters, whatever it is. Maybe
Hmm.
it's not going to be at the same production level as somebody like, you know, Blizzard or whoever could put together, but it's still going to have the
Yeah.
substance behind it. And I think that's
Hmm.
much more important, to a game.
Yeah.
Like,
So I guess we can end
sure.
like with this last question. Do you think that the future of gaming is just having a bunch of portals of different people's games? Like if everyone can make a video game because AI can make it so, then essentially you just have portals to different universes, right? And then you just pick which one you want to go into that day.
I think that could be in the future, and probably not too far off. Like I think
Yeah.
there's going to be
Hmm.
so many more options and so many games coming out, and because people do have the ability to, on their own or with a small team build a game,
Yeah.
that's just going to give
Hmm.
so many options. The challenge will be, I'm sure, for those developers like getting the attention if the market does continue like
Hmm.
get more and more flooded with developers putting out games. But I think as a gamer, as a player, like that's pretty cool that there's probably going to
Yeah.
be a lot more games like Stardew Valley or I don't know if you ever played the game Ori and the Blind Forest, and
I saw some
yeah, it's
gameplay,
like
but yeah,
small
that
indie
seemed cool too.
developer. Like this game it's a platformer. It feels like a basic platformer on the surface,
Hmm.
but just really well done.
Yeah.
Like almost no dialogue, but like still creates like I got emotional playing that game. It was like Pixar level. Like the
Hmm.
intro to the movie Up is like what I would equate it to.
Yeah.
No dialogue, but it still just
Wow.
creates this like emotional response, and it'd be really cool to see
Hmm.
like more and more types of things like that come out. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, agreed. I think it will be like that because I think both movies and video games will eventually merge, and you'll have more immersive cinematic experiences. And then, because I'm just waiting because I'm like watching this AI and like say, oh, it could develop video games. That I have a game in mind. Just translating some of my board games into like
Hmm.
video games would be.
Yeah,
I can see it. All right, if that's the case, I have a new
yeah.
medium too. So
Yeah, it'd be cool
yeah,
to see what comes. And the way that technology is just moving faster and faster exponentially. There's things that we can't even probably fathom right now that, in the next 10 years,
yeah.
will be totally different.
Yeah, I mean, such evolutions in the last two, so I can only imagine
Right.
five and then
Yeah.
10. So,
VR, I think VR gaming will get, that's really going to create the truly immersive experiences as well. Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
brain plug.
And we'll all be in the Matrix before we know it. We might
Yeah,
already
maybe we're
be.
already there. Who
We'll be
knows?
2 levels down or 20 levels down without even knowing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, this was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
And appreciate anyone who's still listening. Feel free to share your experiences with, with video games, whether it was like your childhood memories or something else. But with that, I think we'll end it there. So, all right. All
Yeah,
right. Thanks,
catch
everyone.
you all later.